Hello and welcome to Think Differently by Design. You're now entering the Learning System Series 2. My name is Dina Redinger. I'll be facilitating 3 of the actual modules in Series 2, and the first one today is going to focus on the fear of failure. All of us have some sort of fear of failure probably at some time in our life, but we're here to put the pieces together to make sure that you guys are all confident walking out without having the fear of failure to stop you in your tracks. So let's jump in and talk about what you're going to get out of this actual module for yourself. So we know that the fear of failure affects over 33% of the Americans, that fear causes them to stop in their tracks. It's 1993. I myself got a phone call, was living and working in Springfield, Missouri, and the company had gone through some restructure. And I got the phone call that said, "Congratulations, we're going to offer you a job in St. Louis." I knew that that was going to turn my whole world upside down because as I was a new single mom of 2 kids, knowing that a move 4 hours away would cause a lot of turmoil, not only for my children, but also for our personal lives and moving away from family. And it really did stop me in my tracks. So I'm very familiar of what it's like to overcome some of these incredible fears that we all have. And we're going to talk a little bit about what you're going to get out of this series. First, we want to know what causes fear in the first place. We want to identify the science behind the fear. Where does this come from? And how does the science affect us physically? We also want to discuss the effects on our own personal success. So fear of failure is real, and we want to figure out how to overcome that. And that's what we're going to do today. So it's called atychiphobia. Atychiphobia is fear of failure. So there is a word that's associated with the fear of failure. And we know this is very real, as we said, for a lot of people. So what does it mean, atychiphobia? It's when fear stops us from doing the things or that's causing us to move forward and stops us from achieving our goals. This affects, like I said, a lot of people. Fear also is associated with the fear of anxiety. We also know that anxiety comes from things that we've experienced in our lifetime. We also know that we may have a genetic predisposition to what anxiety and fear can do to us personally and professionally. Knowing if you suffer from atychiphobia and it affects you to where it stops you in your tracks, this module is going to be helpful for you. We also know that the things that we fear seem much bigger than what they are. Going back to my story, living in a small town like Springfield, Missouri, way back in the early 90s, and then going to a very large city like St. Louis, Missouri, was absolutely daunting to think of. How would I be successful? I'm successful here in a small town. Will I be successful in a very large town of people I don't even know? So it was a fear of mine to feel like I was going to walk out there and be successful, but I had to see it for what it is. Number one, I needed a job. I loved my job. I also loved the company I was working for. So it was worthy of me to go ahead and just jump in, even though I think this was going to create a lot of havoc for me personally, is to jump in and get past that fear. So realize that many of the things that we fear are much larger sometimes than they actually are. And you have to really watch your narrative. So the power of fear, there's good fear and there's not so good fear. But what causes fear is this hyperreactivity, and it's a neurochemical that affects our amygdala that says, I'm going to protect you. And if it starts to go off and you've got fear and that little thing in your brain starts to trigger, it says, warning, warning, warning. That is what's causing this biological response to fear. So understanding what is my body doing that's making me feel afraid, and where do I feel it? Do I feel it in my head? Do I feel it in my neck? Do I feel it in my gut? Do you feel it in your legs or your hands? It's different for everybody, but understand and recognize when you are afraid, what is your biological response? And that is the very first step, is recognizing, number one, what is my body reaction to what I'm afraid of? And number two, what is the story I'm telling myself about how I'm feeling And is that really stopping you in your tracks? So what causes fear? Well, we know our past experiences dictate our future activities. So if we've experienced something in our lifetime and during our childhood that actually was frightened us to a point where we stopped in our tracks, we may take some of that subconscious feeling that we had as kids and we're like, no, we're not going to do that, without giving it some real serious critical adult thinking. Sometimes a lot of those things can well up from your subconscious of things that you've experienced in your past, because it may be a belief, and that belief will define and depend upon what actions you will take. Fear is also very self-sabotaging. So if you realize that you've got a big opportunity, but fear sets in and you're like, oh, I can't do that because of A, B, C, and D. How about if you can do that because of A, B, C, or D? Sometimes a low self-esteem and not feeling like you can do it. And I know that you can do it, because if I could do it way back in 1993, underneath all the things that we're going through in my life, I know for sure that you can do the same. Imperfectionism. For all of you people who are innovators, who feel like you can see how to solve a lot of problems, you're going after it, you know how to get things done, you're very good at getting things done, but it's got to be perfect. If that's stopping you in your track, just know there is no such thing as perfection. So get rid of perfection and realize that working out of excellence is better than perfection. Excellence allows you to be a human. So do the best you can, give your best, and know that that is your best. So get away from the thought of being perfect, because perfect doesn't exist. So overcoming the fear of failure is real for everyone. We find that it's a little bit more common for women than it is for men, but it's because of the things that we've experienced in our own lifetime that's driving some of that fear of failure. A lot of it is feeling like you're not good enough, feeling like you can't, say things well enough, however that may be. It all drives your fear. So it's up to us to learn how we see the situation, how does the world see us, and what is the narrative? The narrative can be a negative narrative. It can be something that you've told yourself that absolutely takes away any joy of the thought of what if maybe that was great for me, right? So think about things in a way that could be good possibilities versus something that actually derails the opportunity. So let's talk about leading well and living a life I love. It's really got to be focused on leading well, but leading your own life and living a life of love. You want to get the right results. You need the right strategies with the right problems so that you can have some psychological safety too, and trust. When we do small diagnostic thinking groups, that's what we're focusing on. The right results, the right strategy has to come from solving the right problem. 99% of us are all solving the wrong problem. Some examples of, Michael Jordan got cut from the high school team, but the way he solved the problem, he became a NBA All-Star. Warren Buffett, obviously known for his incredible strategies for investment, he was rejected from Harvard. Richard Branson actually didn't graduate from high school. So there's nothing that's holding you back except for you and making sure that you have good critical thinking skills so you don't sabotage yourself or cause yourself to stall for the fear of failure. Listen, we all can do things better, but just know that you've got to go out there and just put it out there and keep going and just test the waters. So reducing the fear of failure, you've got to manage the heuristics of a decision. The subconscious mind really does have a big impact on how you're going to make decisions, because we pack in all these decisions and experiences, and they're all inside of our psyche, of our mind, and we carry these things physically within us. And if you don't think that your past experience have an effect on how you make decisions today, you're wrong. They do. And how you lived your childhood, what you experienced in your childhood, what you experience as adulthood have an impact on how you make decisions. So you want to define the symptoms, you want to uncover the causes, and making sure that you're moving forward. So what do you tell yourself? Now, what's your self-talk, right? What do you tell yourself? I'm great, I'm going after it, or I don't know if I'm going to do it, if I can do that well enough, or I don't have the skills. Well, you know what? Step in anyway, get out of your self-talk that's negative and give yourself the opportunity to think more positively. So we're going to do an activity. You want to stop and just pay attention to yourself. When you feel the fear coming on, you want to take a big breath. Put your hands over your heart and really understand what is the emotion that you're feeling? What is the fear? And you have to allow yourself to feel the fear. I can say, Dina, this news is really hard to take and it really kind of scares me. And you know what? It's okay. I can feel scared, but I'm also very strong and I'm very talented and I can get past that. So you want to make sure and to acknowledge the emotions that you're feeling, allow yourself to feel that, but you don't want to use those type of feelings to, push through. You want to just allow yourself the ability to acknowledge it, but you're going to move past it. You're not going to hang on to it. So you're going to let it go. So what sets you back can give you a comeback. Don't ever let fear get in the way of your success. Setbacks are just an opportunity to say, yep, I've learned something different and I'm going to do something different. And what you're going to do is, what is that aha moment? You go from a roadblock to a breakthrough. So you're actually going to have a GPS. You're going to have goals and a pathway and a solution. And you're going to start mapping the things that you want the most in your life. Who do I need to talk with? Who do I need to talk to? What are ideas I need to consider that I haven't thought about thinking? What is the pathway? Have I asked enough people how they got to their pathway? What is the solution? And my suggestion is start with the end in mind and make sure and work the plan backwards so you know what should that goal be. Be clear about what your GPS is. It's going to show you the way to become successful. So bridging the gap is really correcting your mindset, switch that narrative around, decide you are worthy, create that strategic pathway, engage others. We need to have more information and we work really well in small groups. The small groups that we've done with diagnostic thinking groups with powerful women who have had different experience have different outcomes. They all found different ways to increase their visibility, increase their pay. They found new jobs. They created new jobs. They decided to make something for themselves. So just know you are the bridge in that gap. You've got the answer. You just have to develop some of those strategies to make sure you're moving forward. So it's time to eliminate fear of failure. I want to know if you're willing. It's only holding you back. Don't let fear of failure hold you back and make sure that you have a comeback. So my name's Dina Redinger. This is my partner, Sharon Weinstein. We are on a mission to make sure that people are confident in what they do, bringing out new transformational thinking and new strategies and making sure that you solve the right problem at the right time, making sure that you get and deserve the outcomes that you look and you yearn for. Take care.